the government always accused the KHK victims or being disloyal to the constitution, disloyal to the law, doing all sorts of dodgy things that would require them to be dismissed from their posts. And this was their claim in the European Court of Human Rights or in the United Nations Human Rights Committee. From the data we collected through our victimization survey, first question we asked to the victims of KHKs that whether they were being charged for any sorts of criminality or disciplinary action that would mean that they let's say transgress the law or constitution. 99.9% of them answered that no, they were in fact successful people with awards. So that, I'm just saying that 99%, 9%, so that they did not have any issues with the criminal law or disciplinary law. The rest, one out of 1,000, okay? The rest, 1 out of 1,000 people said that they might have been questioned on some issues, on criminal or disciplinary, but none of them were being sentenced either criminally or disciplinary. Okay, 1 out of 1,000, not 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000. So basically, more or less, 100% of the victims didn't have any criminal or disciplinary record prior to supposed to be coup d'etat run by the KHK victims, let's say, because government accused them involving in those things. So they didn't have any problem. But on and after the day of special operation, we call it, government calls it coup d'etat, but we call it special operations, as you know, then they become ruthless, aggressive, crazy criminals that on the day and after, they became so ruthless criminals that they killed 200 plus people, injured 2,000 plus people. They sold the country's interest on data, this and that, to outsider, this and that. And the government made the public believe through its propaganda power, as I told you. Anyway, we asked this sort of questions basically to the victims, not the victims, but the families of victims, plus non-victims as well. Just those non-victims were control group, let's say, whether they were thinking in line with the victims and the families or not. They were control groups. But our main target group were the victims and the families. By the way, the families said the same thing about the victims in their families. They said that, look, our let's say sons, our spouses, our children didn't have anything to do with criminality or undisciplined action. So the victims' words and victim relatives' word were collaborating with each other, and then we had around 4,000 samples. Okay, in this sense, in this sense, you know, if somebody or some group was lying, the other group would deny their claims, obviously, so that in this sense, we could say that the victims and the families were targeted by the special operation to gain gigantic power by the regime. Otherwise, we know that they were losing their grips on the country. If this supposed to be coup d'etat, what we call special operation, didn't happen, they wouldn't be in power anymore. That is why they needed this sort of operations so that they can oppress any opposition, and then they can get any posts in the government. They could suppress the judiciary. They already suppressed bureaucracy. They could oppress the public, so that they could oppress the media, so that ordinary people, mostly, as I told you, mostly less educated. Let us not call them ignorant. Mostly less educated, didn't have the chance to know the truth and act accordingly. So, to keep the grips, to keep their grips on the nation, the same power elites lied to the European Union Court of Human Rights, to European countries, to United States, to United Nations Human Rights Committee, so that they were acting in accordance with international law. They, as I told you, they accused the KHK victims as disloyal to the nation, disloyal to the constitution, this and that. But in fact, our data proved, or at least supported the claims of the victims, not the claims of the power elites. As I told the audience, that the victims didn't have any problems with the law, or with the discipline of the state. In fact, they were most successful, most of the time, award-winning people. Then how come these people were targeted? It is simple, because you cannot use these people in any criminal action. You cannot buy these people. You cannot corrupt these people easily. I'm sure the audience could understand the truth now, and guess whom were replaced with these people. Do the audience remember those false diplomas, fake diplomas, fake certificates, false diplomas for judiciary, false diplomas for medical professions, false diplomas for this, false diplomas for that. Then you could make those people with false diplomas to replace those successful, honest people, so that they could do whatever the government ask for them. They could do any corruption. They could put under the carpet any criminal or misdemeanors or embezzlement, all those things, issues of the governing elites and their family members. Because I'm not associating with anyone, but Turkey has become cocaine distribution center. Turkey has become attraction point for the world mafiosi leaders. Many of the world's mafiosi leaders has got citizenship from Turkey, believe you me. So if those KHK victims had stayed in their posts, I am sure judiciary would work better and more efficiently against those organized criminals. Police forces would stop those cocaine traders. We don't. By the way, we don't have any coca trees in our country. We don't grow. Coca trees do not grow in our country. But as far as I know, those cocaine is imported from, I'm not sure, but from Colombia, from Venezuela, from probably South American countries, and then they come to our borders, then distributed throughout Europe, maybe Africa, maybe Asia, and this wouldn't be happening if those victims were allowed to do their job. This is some of the reasons why that special operation happened and why those people are or were dismissed. I stop here, Merjina, so that you can.
Yes, Dr. Bayram, when you talk about the subject or the participants and about their innocence of the crime they're being accused. If you remember in 2018, when I first visited Turkey, there was only around reported 250,000 KHK victims at the time, like 250,000. So, and I was told that many of these victims, they didn't understand their crime. They didn't even know why they were being accused. So this one, so remember that in previous Global Dialogue for Justice, we have extensively covered, how the list, because the numbers assigned to KHK victims, how it came about, and you have explained this very clearly. I think when we did our Global Dialogue for Justice in Helsinki, this is 2024. I think we have covered it, and we have covered it even before that. And so, what happened to the people that should be accountable? Because what happened after that, that designation of numbers and the list. It's really harm millions of people. So what happens to this now, and why is the European Courts of Human Rights, when they review a case, is supposed to be very clear that these victims were assigned this number, and for a reason like you said, why following the so-called the special operations. So what is going on now with this, Dr. Lara?